Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you how to make some gel transfers. It's a really fun technique and you may find it very useful for your crafting. Here are some of the examples of the ones that I did. This video is brought to you by Jerry's Artorama and I'll be using their gel transfer kit today. Their kit comes with a large container of gloss gel, which is used for a lot of different things around the studio. Also some satin varnish, a couple packages of poly brushes, big and small, a water bottle, and also some painting panels. And these are kind of neat. The kit actually came with 2 canvas boards, which is what this is on here, and a package of the small painting panels, the ATC size, and also some 6x9 painting panels, which are about this size here. So I'm going to go over some troubleshooting, and we're going to do the technique together. That way you'll see how to do it, and also if you run into some problems, which of course I do, because I try to test all different sorts of ways to do things, I'll kind of show you how to get around them. So this one here I did on a canvas board. This was the 8x10 canvas panel, and the thing that I noticed when working on the canvas panel, the same thing when working on a domino, is that this is a very difficult technique to do on non-porous surfaces. So a canvas panel is, you know, canvas that's been stretched over cardboard and then primed, like triple primed usually. So it creates a barrier for moisture, so that it becomes difficult to transfer. And the reason for that is when you're removing your paper, sometimes it wants to take off the ink as well. So we'll go over that a little bit more when we do the actual transfer. Now this here, I actually used one of the color copies that was in the instruction kit from Jerry's. I figured I would do one that they provided just as kind of like a control group, and it worked just as well as the photocopies that I had made too. And so you've got some different images to play with on the smaller boards to kind of get a hang of it so you don't waste the bigger boards. But I would say if you made a mistake and you ruined it, you could always gesso over it and use it for something else. And this is another one on those small boards from a photocopy that I made. And then of course I just kind of added some ink and, you know, just kind of played with it, and I was really happy with the results. It definitely gives you kind of a grunge look, and this one I just kind of decoupaged and inked and added some paint and just kind of had fun with it. I thought this would be a really cute kind of like powder room type of decoration. Now something else you can do is magazine pages. This was a picture from Coastal Living magazine, and I loved how it had like the Ferris wheel right on the water and the reflection and stuff. So so I tried that just to see if a magazine transfer would work, and it worked quite well. And let's just get right to the transfer. How about that? All right, I'm going to work on one of the small panels here, and I am going to use a photocopy. So if you go to your library or your office or whatever, and you have a bunch of photocopies made of the work that you've printed at home, and you're kind of worried that you haven't chosen the right, you know, you're worried, you're not sure if you have the photocopy or if you have the inkjet print, as long as you like kind of just wet like an area of the design, if you see it's not bleeding, then you've got the photocopy, and that's important. You don't want to use your inkjet print because it's going to bleed. I think I want to use let's see, I'm trying to decide if I want to use the Sexy Witch or the Moon. I think I want to use the Moon. And now another note, you have to print your things in reverse. I didn't think of that when I made this, so that's not going to work for this technique, or I would have all my words backwards. So what you want to do is print it in reverse like I did, and a lot of these images I found on the Graphics Fairy website, so you can go find that if you're looking for some of these images that I used. It's a wonderful resource. So you want to kind of cut fairly closely to the image you want to transfer, and then you want to paint on a generous amount of the gloss gel, because it's very important that your image is completely coated and it sticks to your panel very, very well. All right, so just give it a good old coat. This is really cool. Oh, another thing I want to show you about this gloss gel is it retains brush strokes really well. So if you wanted to like go over something that you had printed and give like cool brush strokes to it, you can. I'll show you here, like on this, I don't know if I tip it to light, can you see those brush strokes? I think that's really cool. I just kind of built up some texture there because I thought it was just kind of fun and I was experimenting, and I like to do that when I experiment. I just want to make sure I got plenty. Okay, you can see that everything is glossy and covered here. I think if I tip it to the light you can. All right, so then tip it, place it face down. I think I'll maybe justify it up a little bit so I can stamp or you know, put text down there. And then you're going to use one of these plastic scraper tools. It's basically like an unprinted gift card, and just kind of smooth out any air bubbles here. and some of the gloss is going to transfer onto the paper. So and I also take the leftover and I'll put it right back in the jar. So when you have this, if you want, you can wipe it off with a rag, because otherwise, or maybe just kind of wipe it off with your finger, otherwise you're going to have a shiny spot on the background. I try not to drag that back over because I don't want to get that gloss gel on the back, or it's going to make a barrier for our next step. So the next step, I'm just going to wipe my hands off here. The next step is you'll have your thing glued to your paper. So I like to let it dry overnight, at least let it dry like 3 or 4 hours, but overnight is best. And then what you want to do is spray it with just plain water. Now if you're working on a large piece like this this deer I did here, if you're working on a big piece, do a section at a time. You're going to have much better results. So like maybe spray this area, rub this off, spray this area, and just kind of go as you work. I find that if you let it sit in water too much, especially on a porous panel like these panels here, which are like paper on cardboard, you can kind of get it a little too wet, and sometimes it will want to rub the paper backing off of the board. But with a small piece like this, which is what I would recommend starting with, you can go right ahead and wet the entire thing. So you want to get it pretty wet, and you want to be able to start to see your image coming through. And I have a little mouse here. Okay, you can kind of see that. And then what you want to do is just start very gently with your finger rubbing away the paper. Now I like to do this outside because it does kind of make a mess, and what I do is I'll sit on the edge of my fire pit, without a fire obviously, and I just kind of do this there, and then let all those little curly cues of paper just kind of rub right off into the fire pit, because then it can be kindling for my next my next bonfire. And you can see how the image is revealed. So you want to kind of rub down until you get to the image, but you don't want to rub so far that you remove the image, because sometimes that will happen, especially if you're working on a porous surface like the domino. You have to be very careful because it's very glossy under there, or the canvas board. And you can see, and I'll show you in a second, where I actually removed a little too much paper, and because I started to remove my ink too. So it's almost like you're leaving a very, very fine, thin film of paper there. Very, very almost imperceptible. Like I'll show you a couple, not really mistakes, because it's part of like the technique that you get here. And I wouldn't peel off the paper, but if you do have some hanging over the edge, you can just kind of peel it off like that. So it is a little time consuming, but I did want to show you this in real time, so you don't start doing this and be like, well, this took more than 2 minutes, so what am I doing wrong? That's why I'm leaving it in full time. So I do appreciate your patience watching this. Now I can see I've got all these, still got all these little paper pills everywhere, so I'm going to give it another little spritz and just kind of go back in and see if there's any. Now if I get to the point where I'm rubbing down through and I'm seeing patches of light in my design, then I'm going to stop. And you know, that's part of that distressed look that people associate with the gel transfers, so you know, don't worry about that. And also, it's a good tip if you're to transfer on a white board when you're using white paper as your background. So if you do have a little leftover paper there, it's not going to be the end of the world, and you're not really going to see it after you apply your final sealer. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of brush any little paper pills off. And it's pretty dry because I didn't use too much water, and it worked pretty quickly. But you know, I probably spent a tiny bit more time and just see if I could remove them as many paper pills as I can. But then you want to go over it with some matte varnish. And the reason I recommend the matte, because you could go over it with the gloss again. The thing I like about the matte is that it's going to give you a toothier surface, so that you can go over and like stamp on top of, or you know, collage on top of, and things are going to stick really well. So I'm just going over with a little coating of that matte to seal. And since we started with a photocopy or laser print, it's not running on us when we do that. So there's our little mouse ATC, which will be really cute decoration on a scrapbook page or a card. And so when it's all done and dry, it's going to look something like this, except, you know, it'll be a mouse and not a deer. I thought this would be kind of fun to do maybe some really transparent coloring on top, and then maybe make a burlap or birch bark frame or something for it for the holidays. But I just wanted to show you that full tutorial so that you can do this at home. Now, so I'm going to show you some troubleshooting here. Like areas like this, where it's white and I can see the texture of the board. Obviously I rubbed a little too much. And here you can see like a thin veil of paper. I didn't rub enough there. So it was kind of difficult working with a magazine sheet because you have the printed side facing you and then the side you're trying to transfer. And when everything is wet, sometimes it's hard to see where you haven't rubbed because everything becomes a little transparent, especially with a magazine piece. So I just wanted to show you that. And I also wanted to show you on the porous surface. You can see where I actually rubbed way too much here. It took the whole pattern off in some of these areas. I think it kind of looks pretty. This is an old French like sign that I found on Graphics Fairy, and it was actually already flipped backwards for transfers. They have a lot of advice on transferring there too. And then I just added some die cuts, and I thought this would be really pretty hanging in my powder room upstairs. So that's what I did there. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment. I'd be happy to help you. The trickiest thing, of course, would be the domino. The first one I did a little mouse on it like this, and I had it, it was perfect, and I thought, oh, I see a little paper, I'm just gonna rub a little more, and then I rubbed it off. I also tried transferring a lobster onto a lobster buoy, and it was a really big transfer, and I started to wipe off the design by accident, and that was kind of all over. So I think if you're going to do a non-porous surface, keep it to a small project like a domino or a coaster or something like that that's manageable, that you're not going to lose your patience with or end up getting a part too wet and having it lift everything off. So non-porous is easiest, like those little painting, like the little SOHO artist training card painting panels are the larger ones. These actually come in all different sizes, and they're very cheap. They're like half the price or less of the canvas panels like this. So great practice thing, and I haven't tried painting on these. I think they'd be really fun to paint on as well. Well, there you have it, how to do a gel transfer. If you liked this video, if you found it helpful, please share it with your artsy friends, pin it on Pinterest, all that good stuff. I do appreciate it and love you for it. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and of course visit our sponsor, Jerry's Artorama. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.